You know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. You'd have been the guy that would have got me the skybox for 40 quid back in the day to get the wrestling. The Vince McMahon stereotype of big meaty men just beating meat.
But that's what Vince loved. He loved to beat his meat.
But with hindsight now,
yeah,
I don't like hindsight, and I've only got one working fucking eye in the night. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raw is Ginger.
Well, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Raw is Ginger. Tonight, I'm joined by, as always, John Toner and Andrew Durnan. Guys, how are you?
My eye hurts.
My balls are still sore.
Yeah. What? Your hand's still gubbed?
I had a blood test on Monday. I've got an appointment on Friday to see anything about that. I've also gubbed my hip. I've not been able to walk right the past 2 days.
I bet your missus will take that as a compliment, eh? Well, what's? It's just a good old fashioned mug this time.
Coffee cup with tea in it. I'm rebelling. I'm rebelling against the coffee. I'm having a tea.
I've got Iron Brew in a Coca-Cola glass. You can't see it, but it is there. There we are.
I've got my vape, but I think this is like kind of part of the show now.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Like...
And just to ensure, I also have these sitting just in case this runs out, John.
You've really got to try and reach out to that company, see if we can get a sponsorship deal. Because you're plugging them without even realising it, man.
Oh, I know. It's fucking... And I sit in like fucking video calls every day, and I sit with these.
Right, gotta ask, what flavour is it?
This one is sour apple blueberry.
Sour apple blueberry.
I know.
Whatever happened to just a fag?
Oh no, I've got them as well.
Woohoo! Well,
after
this don't we now must specify that smoking is bad for your health and you should really try and quit, but at the same time we're Scottish, so.
In my defence, you know how bad my smoking was, and it has drastically cut down.
Yeah, well, I know how bad your smoking was because half the time I would walk back in and I would have to go at home and I have to go straight for a shower because my wife wouldn't go near me.
Well,
nope, kids, stay away.
The very quick example is I used to be about 60 a day. This month I have went through 6 packets.
That's not bad.
That's 120. So that's my 7th packet of the month, and it's not opened yet.
Not bad for you. Yeah, I was always partial to a cigarette when I was drunk. I do like it. I think that's a rich man's hobby now, smoking.
And I know we're way off topic here, right? But
we're always off topic before we start, so it's all right.
The price of fags are going up next month again.
Yeah,
fucking ridiculous, man. I'm just glad that I know a guy.
Yeah, you know plenty of guys though. What you know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. You'd have been the guy that would have got me the skybox for 40 quid back in the day to get the wrestling.
Although I do need to tell you, obviously the whole boss situation, right? So I was in the hospital on Monday. Was it Monday? It was Monday. And they says to me, right, we want you to, because I need your opinion on this, right? So was I out of order?
Right.
They says, we want to take in. So I was in initially for ultrasound on my boys. So you go in, obviously, and you're fully clothed. They've got a bed sitting out. And she's like, keep all your clothes on, lying in the bed. So I'm lying back in the bed. And she's right, pull your jeans and underwear down to your ankles. Now, firstly, that is uncomfortable in its fucking self.
Yeah.
Trying to do that in position. I mean, I don't know what kind of Lothario she thought I was, but it was like a fucking seal out of water.
Oh my God.
Trying to bounce about this fucking thing, right? Then
I'm looking away, just like, oh man, I'm just gonna let him carry on.
As I start to pull them down, she says to me, "Your penis." I went, "Yep, still there." And she's, "Grab it." And I said,
"Oh no,
you've not even bought me a drink first." And she says, "No, hold it. I don't want to see it." And I says, right. "Oh, you sound like my missus." So they then now, because obviously, I've had this done a few times, they've kind of changed it now. So now she gives you this big bit of fucking paper. Could have been a stamp to be fair. And you kind of tighten it across so that all they can see is your balls. Right? And obviously puts the jelly on, she starts fucking doing what she's doing. They so the two of these nurses then started whispering in the corner. The whole time I'm lying there back, still gripping onto this, right? And she says to me, they come back and she goes like that, yeah, it's not looking great. So what we suggest we do is instead of waiting for all these other tests and that, we're going to phone round these departments, we're going to get you took there now. And I said, all right, Magic. Says, anyway, a few of these tests were meant to be in Wishaw. We're much nicer than the staff at Wishaw. And then she sits down next to me. She sits down next to me, again, next to my balls. And then she looks at me square dead in the eye with her wee machine thing on my balls. And she goes, aren't we? And I went, well, to be fair, I don't know how many answers there is to that when I'm sitting here with my pants at my knees and you've got a grip on my balls.
Oh, my God.
She then says, right, okay, we're going to take you down to this other bit. Stand up. So I thought she meant just stand up now. So I stood up. My jeans and boxers hit off the floor and she looked at me in utter disgust, like you were a child that had discovered how to pee for the first time and you're out in a neighbour's plant pot having a piss and your mum and dad are trying to enjoy the sunny weather and going, look at that embarrassment. And she looked at me in utter disgust and was like, do you not know how to cover yourself? At no point had she told me to pull them back up. How was I supposed to know?
Okay, I think this is now no longer a wrestling podcast. It's a John's Boss podcast.
So my question there was meant to be, is it known that you're meant to pull them up and then stand up?
One of life's great conundrums.
Or would you have waited for her to say, pull them up?
All she told you to do was stand up.
Exactly.
That's true.
She looked utter disgusted with me.
There we go. That's the for anybody that wonders why our NHS at this moment is free. Anyway, on that note, we're actually going to be talking about two things, which would probably sum up what should have been said about John's Boss was perfect execution.
Very soon will be.
Because we are going to be discussing the Intercontinental Championship match between Curt Henning, aka Mr Perfect, and Bret The Hitman Hart, aka The Excellence of Execution, at SummerSlam 1991. So, Kev, I am probably about to sneeze, so I'm going to go on mic. So, give them a rundown of the match.
Cool. Well, it was, like you said, it was SummerSlam 1991. And this was back in the day when the WWF was full of gimmicks. There was no just straight wrestlers. And if there was, they were few and far between. Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect were two of just straight wrestlers. The rest of them, you had like Earthquake, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, the Nasty Boys, the Legion of Doom, Erwin R. Shyster. When you've got all of them, and then you get a match like Mr. Perfect and Bret the Hitman Hart, you're just drawn to that match. And the funny thing is, it was the second match on the card, Intercontinental title match, and it was the second match.
That's something that I still find that hard to believe. I mean, at the time, you could kind of get it, but with hindsight now,
yeah,
and like hindsight, and I've only got one working fucking eye tonight, but with hindsight, that's an absolute travesty, especially when you look at the card of SummerSlam 91. You're like, okay, but yeah, that at second, really?
Yeah.
And
don't get me wrong, some of the matches, even though it was all like gimmicks galore, some of them were actually quite good. Like the Big Boss Man versus the Mountie. That was one of my favourite matches on that card. The rest of them, it sort of just went downhill for there.
One thing I've got to ask, because we are talking about the Intercontinental Championship, I personally always preferred Intercontinental Championship matches to the World Heavyweight matches because they had a bit more agility, there was a bit more skill. It wasn't just, the Vince McMahon stereotype of big, meaty men just beating meat.
But that's what Vince loved. He loved to beat his meat.
That's what Vince still loves. So here's a question for you: did you prefer the main event, like the World Heavyweight Championship matches, or did you prefer Intercontinental?
I think for me, it always kind of depended who. For me, a lot of the times it wasn't even about winning no titles or the accolade. It wasn't always about the title, more of the match. So there was a lot of times when maybe my favourite match on stuff would be one that had nothing to do with a title. Because I can always follow the wrestlers more than the wrestling matches more than the title. That for me, as a viewer kind of watching it, was a bonus if it was for an accolade or a title.
Well, here's a question for you then. Like, see, you know how, because like when you're teenagers, you always want to get like a replica belt, or even just one of the cheap ones for that was in like, you know, Forbidden Planet or A1 Comics. If you had to choose, if you had the choice between the Intercontinental and the World Heavyweight, what, which ones would you want?
Smoking Skull.
Yeah.
Nice.
If we're talking about back in that era, it would have been the Intercontinental and the Eagle. I wanted them both. But the Smoking Skull's been the best belt they've had for a long time.
Yeah. So I take it you weren't a fan of the spinner belt?
No.
Just had to make sure. What about the Daniel Bryan one that was made of wood?
That was just funny.
Yeah. It's the ultimate irony though, is that like he was considered like, you know, like playing the heel was like the vegan who wanted to save the planet. And I'm like, hindsight has really not been kind to that one either. And again, like I know we're going off topic, but yeah, it's just something that I was intrigued about was because I was watching a lot of kind of wrestling bio videos after watching the Mr. Perfect Bret Hart. And they were talking about like kind of forgotten stables that probably would be more relevant today. And one of them was the right to censor.
Yep.
Now, I think that was a pretty ingenious stable when it was ahead of its time, especially because in was it the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble? Ivory Kate actually came back and she was in a right to censor get up. And it just seemed to fit so well. It was like they just hit the nail on the head with it. Got the because it's very rare they get like, you know, the pulse of the time right, and they really got it with that one. Just with her coming out with that, and no, she got eliminated like whatever 5 seconds. But her whole thing, like her walking down and being like, "You're all sinners" and all this crap, and then getting out again, she's like, "You're still all sinners." And we would get to. And I just thought the pageantry of that was better than the actual Rumble match.
A lot of the time it is. I mean, with this SummerSlam, I watched the full thing again, and I found myself wanting to skip some of the matches to get to the interviews and stuff, because the interviews and stuff back then were a lot better, especially when you had people like Macho Man.
Oh yeah, but
I don't know what he was smoking, but it was brilliant.
I think it was more a case of what they weren't smoking or snorting or inserting. Well, in fairness, Curt Hennig could cut a pretty decent promo, especially like when he'd been in line with Bobby the Brain Heenan as well, and that was just a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
What for me, that type of thing, and then Bret Hart and his full kind of like the 90s get up. I don't know about you, but see the shades that he wore, I wanted them as a kid. I didn't really follow wrestling as a kid, but obviously there was, you know, toys and merchandise and stuff. And I would always see like pictures of Bret the Hitman Hart with those shades, and I was just like, I want them. Well, I don't get me wrong, they'd be kitsch as fuck right now. Well, at the same time, they'd probably be quite, because the 90s are on a bit of a kick now in the 2020s, so you could maybe get away with it.
Probably
retro now, isn't it?
Aye. It's every 30 years, because like 2010s it was the 80s, 2000s it was the 70s. So you know what that means? 2030s is going to be the year 2000s, and I can wear my big flared jeans again and my Limp Biscuit hoodie at 40 years old. And Tor's just going to look at me like, no.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever wear late jeans.
No.
Hey, I'll wear those jeans, the big jeans with the belt, the big like kind of like, you know, that had the wee spikes on it, and then the big chain that came off the side. Having a skateboard that I cannot skate for fuck.
I pity the boys when you offer to take them to the park.
Yeah, you assume that I actually go out. You're what I envy that. It's more the fact that like if they are starting to look at it, if they get to because they'll be in their teenage years at that point, and they'll probably be looking at like kind of older bands, and if they go, and it's like, oh, but what you listen to? Oh, you might not have heard of them, Linkin Park. Strap yourselves in, kids. We're about to play One Step Closer. And just watch me go absolutely fucking mental because you remember those days at Sneakies. What if when Big Friar put on Linkin Park One Step Closer, the entire dance floor would clear because they knew it was just my song to go up and just go fucking nuts. And I was just like, I've had a shit week. I'm pissed. Why I'm going to end up flying into somebody. Good times. But yeah, what in terms of like the actual match itself, I know that Curt Hennig wasn't exactly in the best of condition at this point.
Yeah.
What and I never realized there was a whole thing about where they thought he was potentially screwing the insurance policy, committing insurance fraud.
It was
Because there was a thing if like he had to retire because of injury, he got like a massive payout. So people were saying that he wasn't as injured as he actually was, so he could get the payout. What do you guys think? Because I think he probably was as injured as they say, but maybe kind of like an Edge situation where they go, okay, your career could be over. Then a little bit later down the line, they're like, oh, actually, you can do this, and you can do that. What do you think?
I mean, he didn't wrestle for like as much as he had been for like about a year and a half after this match. So it was sporadic, but he was filing out his contract because you're contracted to do this many matches because that's how it was back then. You were contracted to do that amount of matches rather than well, you're contracted for this amount of years.
Yeah,
because they were all self-employed, and if they didn't work, they didn't get paid. So
true.
I'm contracted for this amount of matches over this amount of time, and they stretched it out for him. They stretched the time longer so that he could take more time to just sit and heal. Because I think it was like a knee and a hip injury.
Yeah,
because you can see it in this match that he limps a bit, and there was no like previous injury mentioned, and there's no mention of it.
Yeah.
So it's like he's just doing what he can do to get through the match because he was supposed to be winning it, but then that'll make your schedule like 6 times heavier on you. So he's like, all right, give the belt to Bret. I trust Bret to take the belt. So they done that, and then that gave him time. So I don't think it was insurance fraud because who would willingly give up the belt when they were supposed to be having it for like the next 6 months or something?
True.
So,
what do you think, Tony?
I mean, it's everything else. It's easy to kind of surmise, be all different kind of theories and that. But unless you're him, you clearly won't know. But I mean, I suppose and not my opinion on it, but to give a bit of a spin from what Kev was saying, was it the time where he just thought, he was going through that lull of on the road a lot, doing this, doing that, training. I mean, obviously because of injury and stuff up until this match, apparently, Bret had openly spoke about as well how the cardio wasn't great. It wasn't where he'd wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Maybe has he just got to that point and he's just went, do you know what? I could walk away. I could happily not be doing this and having a few quid in my back pocket. I'm not saying that's the theory I believe, but to kind of flip from what Kev was saying, which is probably more realistic, but the kind of cynics would look at it and go, is that the case? Because many a wrestler, especially when you look at it now, I mean, back then, a lot of, even in general, kind of health concerns, health conditions, mental health and stuff, that wasn't really something that was looked at and thought of a lot. Was there maybe just he was in a lull? Because for me, and it kind of flip onto the match, for me, I must be one of the few, I wasn't a massive fan of the match. You know, I wasn't. It served a purpose. I felt the end, like the last few minutes, was the best bit of the match, by a country mile. You know, the beginning, I felt, you know, there was moves in there. You could see the kind of sluggishness from Henning pretty early on.
Yeah.
A lot of hair pulling in it.
Aye.
You know,
I noticed that there was like an unreal amount of hair pulling.
Yeah, there was just this period in the match where it was like two toddlers fighting over a toy in nursery.
Aye.
You know,
And again, I can actually vouch for that.
And yeah, you know, it's just, yeah, the end point of the match, you know, where, and the commentary got it banging the money when they're like, you know, this could go either way. This has been, you know, the last part of it, it was going side to side. You thought kind of anybody could have won it.
Yeah.
At that point, there was a lot of close pins, a lot of stuff going on. That for me was the exciting part. The initial period of the match was, and again, to get back to your question, was that because Henning was injured, or could he not be asked? And maybe that was the reason for the lack of conditioning getting into it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, the match is like, it's one of the longest matches. In fact, it is the longest match on the card.
Yeah.
It comes in at just over 18 minutes. And like 13 minutes of that was just humming and hawing. And like you said, it was the last 5 minutes where all the action was.
And how many times as well, was it just me that felt that this seemed unnatural? How many times Heyman slid out the ring?
Yeah.
No, that way, when
there seemed to be a lot of kind of do you think I was just him having a breather?
Aye.
I think it was. I mean, what he would do in his matches is that if it wasn't going for him, he would duck for a move and then he'd go it, but then he'd just saunter around the ring. He wasn't doing that. He was actually just out.
Yeah.
So it was like completely change of character. He was actually just going out to get a breather rather than doing his I ducked and then I went out the ring and then I'm thinking around and I'm shouting at the fans and throwing things at them.
Yeah. I noticed a couple of times. I noticed a couple of times, like there was one specifically where it was going into a roll up to try and pin Mr. Perfect. And normally he would, and beforehand he was a really good seller, like so he'd be like flipping over and all that stuff if he was trying to pin it. But it just looked like he just sat down and then just went over. And it was probably because he was in so much pain.
Yeah.
Because Bret had said, like, you know, he had no idea like how much pain he was actually in. But again, it was a case of I never really knew about old school Mr. Perfect. I knew about, you know, this kind of one, and then when he returned in 2002 in the Royal Rumble. And he looked a bit, you could tell there was a change in his style. But I'd never seen like, you know, classic Perfect until I went back and looked at a couple of ones before this. And I could see why everybody like raved about how well he was in the ring. I mean, even Hulk Hogan said, you know, you checked your ego at the door when Curt showed up because you knew that he could go.
And yet Hulk Hogan said, no, I'm not dropping the belt to Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
No, of course he would show him up. He would show him up. But it wasn't a case of that he was like, you know, check the ego at the door because he would kick your ass. He was more a case of like, right, just play the backstage game so he doesn't make me look like, you know, the chump that I am.
I know.
Which is fair dues. Like if that's the thing he's got in his arsenal, fair dues. But at the same time, yeah. Well, we've said enough about Hulk Hogan to cover a lifetime. Yeah, and then there was something in this match as well, which wasn't really common at the time, and it was a kick out of a finisher. So Mr. Perfect executes his perfect plex. The crowd just goes silent because they all think that's it, it's done. And then Hart kicks out, and the crowd just go like, "What the actual hell just happened here?"
And see, that was the beauty of that as well, though, because you're right. That was when this wasn't common. So when that happened, you were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you look at it now, And I'm talking about between the two wrestlers that are in the ring now, there can be matches where you see 5, 6, 7+ finishers getting executed during it, which for me, it loses the effect of it being the finisher.
Yeah. Do you think finishers are, in that sense, are no longer protected then?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Aye.
Do you think there's any that, like, for nowadays that could be more protected? Like, if you had to pick like a nowadays wrestler's finishing move and go, that one shouldn't be kicked out of, what do you think? I personally think the RKO, because of the reputation, just mainly because of the reputation it's built. I know it's just a fancy DDT, what kind of thing, but the way that he's perfected it over the years and how he's been able to just kind of just pop it up out of nowhere kind of thing. You would normally think if it was something like that, then it would be a case of, right, that's it. So for me, that kind of falls into people's elbow category and leg drop category, where it's the showmanship of it, but it's because Orton sells it so well. But what do you guys think? Maybe Brock's F5?
I don't know, because there's a lot more moves that look more brutal. I mean, I'm no John Cena's biggest fan, but the FU that he done, that looked even more brutal than the F5.
I think the F5 only looks brutal because it's Brock.
Aye.
Now, he could do 95% of finishers that we think, even I know Andy's not the biggest fan of the people's elbow, but a guy like him landing on you for that makes all the difference.
Yeah. But then again, like, imagine if somebody like Kane, for example, did a people's elbow, or the Big Show. Well, imagine like a 500-pound fucker landing on you.
Well, there's like the Ultimate Warriors finisher. He picked you up, dropped you, and then slammed on you. It's like, no really that much. But then if you did something to have like Earthquake, if he picked you up and then done that and dropped on top of you, you're done.
Yeah.
You can't kick out of that because, you know, he's just lying on you going, nah, you're not moving, mate. It's like, fair enough, I'm done.
Yeah. And the same one like a Yokozuna from from the middle rope. It doesn't matter if it's from the middle rope, the top rope, even the bottom rope. 600 pounds sitting on you, you're fucked.
You're not going anywhere, mate. I'm winning this belt.
Aye. It's like, well, I can do this all day. I'll just wait till your ribs crack. And the same, like, you know, like Rikishi's stink face as well. I mean, who in the
would
right
just make you vomit.
It's like, yeah, but you'd probably pass out from it because you're so like traumatized. He should have been world champion based on that, and not given the crappy. Yeah, I ran over Stone Cold for The Rock.
I did it for The Rock.
I still remember watching that promo that The Rock done. Was it Unforgiven? I went on as a 6-man Hell in a Cell, and he's just impersonating all of them, and I was just in
outstanding.
Stitches.
Aye.
Why? Because he does that bit about Rikishi, and he just says, "Grow up, you thong wearing fatty." Not exactly appropriate nowadays, but oh my god, I was killing myself laughing at that.
It's all right. He's family. He's related to him.
That's true. And Rikishi still did get like his wrestling moment, because everybody remembers like Undertaker, like, you know, hanging him off the top of the cell and that. So that's just that cart.
That's sawdust,
and then it just drives away.
Yeah. It was just like, okay, that's it.
Rikishi going? He's at the match.
So let's talk about the finish of the match. See, one thing I wanted to ask was, I mean, Bret gets him into the sharpshooter and he taps out pretty damn quick. Obviously, we know because like the condition of his back, it's completely fucked. Do you think if his back wasn't as gubbed, that they would have played it out a bit more?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for the
like maybe had him like try and crawl to the rope and then drag him back and all that stuff.
Because if you watch King of the Ring 2 years later, it's Bret Hart and Mr Perfect in the semi-final, and they do things like that. It's a much more structured match.
Yeah,
Mr Perfect's back to being his normal self. He'll duck, he'll go at the ring, he'll throw a bit of paper at whoever it was that was commentating. I think it was Jim Ross and Bobby the Brain Heenan as well. At that point, I think Macho Man was there as well. So he'd like go out and do stuff to them and then go back in. But that's because he'd had like, the year and a half off.
Yeah.
Basically, he'd had like 6 or 7 matches in that space of time. So he wasn't getting like hundreds and hundreds of pounds per match. He wasn't there. They got him in to do like stuff with Ric Flair. He was basically Ric Flair's manager when they brought him in to do his title run. So he wasn't away, but he just wasn't wrestling.
Yeah. So it was pretty much kind of like what Stone Cold was.
Yeah.
Once he'd kind of, once his neck was fecked and after he'd had these major strop.
Yeah.
And it was just like, right, I'm back. I'm a special guest referee. I'll stun on a couple of people. Off I go.
Yep.
And beautifully done as well, might add.
He deciphered when he tried to stun on the McMahons. All of them. But that's more their fault than his.
Yeah.
And that's something that's like an interesting one as well. Do you think, because we were talking about finishers, so since we're on this train, I might as well just keep going. Do you think that the selling of the finisher rather than the finisher itself is what makes it good?
Oh, 100%. It's always about the sell. Always about the sell.
So do you think it's more down? So you think it's more down to the person receiving the finisher to make it look good?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about the stunner. The Rock would sell that like a motherfucker. He was brilliant at selling a stunner. Absolutely brilliant.
That's because he's
Triple H as well. He was all right.
The Rock saw what Shawn Michaels would do with the stunner, and he just took it to the next level. Because Shawn Michaels could sell, like his match with Hogan, it oversold every single hit.
Oh man, we'll need to rewatch that. I think I said I was wanting to avoid it at first, and then I'm like, all right, okay, we'll probably all need to watch it, but just to watch it for the comedy angle. Even Michaels admits that he was just spitting the dummy, but yeah, it was a pretty entertaining dummy.
It's all about the sell, because you think about the sharpshooter. Everybody, who's been put in a sharpshooter here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not painful. Even if they're leaning right back, it's not that painful. It's how you sell it. Think about when it was Bret Hart and Stone Cold.
Oh yeah.
And the blood pouring down his face.
Yeah.
And
the blood was what sold it. It wasn't what. And
well, I mean,
screaming as well.
The hand movements.
And you could actually see him passing out because of the blood loss.
Yeah. But again,
it was his sell that made that finish.
Yeah, true.
And that's the famous picture for that match, though. That's the one picture and vision of that match you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But so here's one for you, Toner, since you're a stunner, man. What do you make of Kevin Owens' version of the stunner?
Hate it.
Even though Stone Cold's approved it?
Hate it.
Even though Stone Cold is perfectly fine with it and done a match with Kevin Owens.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I watched the match. Loved the match.
Yeah, we'll need to review that one as well, because I just recently watched it because they finally put the full match on the WWE YouTube.
For the nostalgia, obviously, I loved it. But I don't really think it's just because of the whole stunner. I mean, I'm one of them. Stone Cold's been back several times throughout the years, and he's dropped stunners here and there.
Yeah,
and you just kind of feel like you get a finisher, you go with it. That's what they were doing. And if you're going to reinvent somebody's finisher, then try and do it to somebody that's not, whether it be semi-active or active. Because if you look, at one point you can have Edge, Reigns, and Goldberg being the battle of the spear.
But me being twisted, I would want to throw Rhino in there and gore every one of them.
I'm talking about currently right now that could potentially be active.
I think
You know,
Rhino could actually potentially be active as well. I
I
think
think
he is still doing some stuff, just not a lot.
but not, yeah, but I mean, not in WWE.
True.
You know, and that's my point there. Like, so,
But
you know, you can
Goldberg's
have
not
all
active
them
right now in
events.
WWE. Well, because he's not had a match in like what, a year and a year,
Yeah,
2
but
years.
he's due to be coming back again.
Aye, he'll come back. He'll have one more match, at least.
It's a more matches than Ric Flair.
And for me, the whole finisher element is that's something that should be. I mean, there's that many different moves and different ways you can go about it, different ways you can interpret stuff, and different movements you can do. Why take something that's, because when you see the stunner, different our generation to the current generation watching it, but we look at that and we automatically think Stone Cold.
Oh yeah.
You see a stunner, you think Stone Cold. And that's my kind of point. You know, there's that much that could be done. Why would you be doing that? I just, me personally, I'm not a fan.
But in fairness, like there are ones. I mean, think about, is it Seth Rollins that does the pedigree? Well, and then you've got, I mean, Booker T had Bookend, which was basically rock bottom, and they riffed on that when he moved into WWE, which was fair news. People have used finishers that belong to other people since like the dawn of time. I mean, even when we always bring them up, so we might as well keep the trend going. Benoit's diving headbutt. That was off the. Well, it was a patented one. But if there was like one, let's say like the Undertaker's last ride, that one was around during his kind of American badass phase, and then when he went back to Dead Man, it kind of didn't stop completely, but it died down. Do you think, like for example, a Braun Strowman would be able to pull off a last ride?
Yeah, any big guy would be able to get. I mean, it's really though the last ride was just a push on a powerbomb.
Yeah. Aye. Still looked fucking painful, mind.
I mean, if you get somebody like Braun Strowman or even Omos, you get him doing a last ride to somebody, that would be, I mean, he's already about 30 feet tall, so it's like a strap.
That's true. Imagine if it was I know the Great Khali had like zero skill in WWE, because I've seen past matches and I was corrected that he actually did have a good bit of wrestling about him.
Oh yeah,
but imagine him doing a last ride to you. You would be fucking, well, you wouldn't need to worry about, like, you know, having to stage the ring, imploding or going through the ring. It would be a Mick Foley situation. It would be absolutely crazy. But I do feel bad right now, because we went through, like, you know, wrestlers we weren't a fan of, and I was like, Great Khali, wasn't a big fan. But I only had this WWE stuff to go on, and then I went back and seen other stuff, and I'm like, he did have skill, and they just totally squandered him.
Yeah.
Aye.
I still liked him in The Longest Yard, on the Adam Sandler film.
It's the same thing that Vince McMahon does when you're off every big guy that comes in. That right, you're just going to plow through people.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he plowed through divas.
Have you heard the story that Paul Heyman tells about Brock Lesnar when he's coming in to do some dark matches? Is that they're saying, "Oh, you should be rushing. You should just stand there and let people bounce off you." And he goes to Paul Heyman, he's like, and Paul Heyman's like, "You shouldn't listen to them." He's like, but you know, they're who they are. He's like, "Leave it with me." And he goes to Vince, he's like, "I want to work with Brock." Okay. And then he's like, "So who do you want your first two fights to be with?" He's like, "Funaki and Spike Dudley."
Oh man, I feel so sorry for Spike Dudley. I know Toro doesn't, but I did.
Hated him.
He was just tossed out like a rag doll. Poor guy.
That's why he was there. That's why he was there in ECW.
Served his purpose.
That's true. Yeah. I didn't actually realize there were so many Dudleys. Well, until I see that it was like, you know, it was like a top 10 kayfabe families. Dudley's was at number 2. Well, because there were so many of them. And I'm like, wow. A lot of Dudleys.
None of them were related.
Yep. You know, so that's the
My
whole thing
biggest-
with it. That's the whole thing with the kayfabe.
My
But with the
biggest
whole,
kayfabe shock was, remember Eugene?
yeah,
Yep, was watching him in an interview out with wrestling. Was my biggest kayfabe shock, man. Couldn't believe it.
yeah. Mine was Undertaker and Kane, like a lot of people.
Yeah,
Just
not
that
being
was,
brothers. Yeah,
yeah,
killed it.
yeah. That was number
Yep.
one. What for kayfabe brothers, and what anybody watching it was like, gotta be, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
Although when I
I
was
never knew
younger, I
that.
used to have this picture that they would walk into like supermarkets dressed as they would walk into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I never knew actually that when Edge and Christian first started out, they were meant to be kayfabe brothers.
Yeah.
What? But before when they were part of the Brood and stuff like that, and then they retconned it to them being childhood friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, would have been more interesting, but I can understand it. I get it.
The reason they changed it is because people are, they're just two blonde Canadians who went to school together.
In fairness, they could have added Test into that bracket as well. He could have been like their twice removed cousin or something like that. I miss Test. Well, gone too soon. We have went like right off topic from the actual match, but I think
which I'm not going to lie and say delights me.
Yeah, that's if anybody's like actually survived into this episode of the podcast from the other ones, they'll know by now we just go on tangents. I think it's because we go and we watch the match. We do have things that we want to talk about, and it just leads us into other questions about wrestling in general.
Yeah.
Well, so it's that way. I'm still thinking, like, do we just stick with this formula? What? Where we don't actually talk about the match, and we just talk about other stuff.
Just pick an event with a certain match. Start with that and just work it.
Yeah,
it's essentially what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we actually do have a structure in its own weird way. We talk about how fucked we are, normally around Toner's boss. And then we move into a bit about the match. And then we go on our tangents. Then we talk a little bit more about the match. And then even more tangents. Then we realize we've been talking pish. And then we wrap it up. Sorry if I've spoiled the magic for anybody there, but yeah, I just kind of had to clarify that's essentially what's happening now.
It's essentially going back to the super fights.
Oh, the early days of super fights as well. Oh man, the early days of that. People keep asking me when that's coming back, and I'm like, it is coming back, but we're in the middle of trying to set up a fucking empire here, guys. We've got what? I was like, I'm one ginger in a shitty part-time job at the minute. Like, pay me money, what to do with my stuff, and then we'll talk. AKA, somebody give us money. Because Freddos have went up in price, and I'm shocked.
No, they've went down in price.
No, they went.
If you go to Home Bargains, you only get 5 of them though, and they're smaller. But they're only 85 pence. But if you compare it to when it was £1 for 6, you're still getting significantly less. So it looks like you're getting a better deal, but you're not.
Yeah. And in fairness, you said it was 80 pence beforehand, and it's way up that 5 pence.
Yep.
Bloody cost of living crisis.
I know.
Freddo. But then again, if you bought Freddos outright, just individually, you'd be screwed.
25p.
Shocking, man. Shocking. That's how our generation sums up Freddos. Well, how much a Freddo was back in 1991? We're even around in 1991.
Aye.
Let's get off fucking topic and then there's this.
I was leading it back in because there's Freddo's 1991. 1991 was SummerSlam with Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart. I was getting back there. You fucking poked the bug right out from under me.
There is a thing called a coincidence, Andy.
No, this is called being a good host and structuring it right, you bell end. Speaking of bell end, so the match ends. Yeah, but what that actually does bring me at that point. So the match did end, and obviously Bret Hart's mum and dad were there. and they go to interview Stu Hart, and they just cut him off.
I know.
Like, it's like, how do you feel?
Okay.
Let the guy speak. He owns a dungeon. He will put you in it. Not in the fun way. Yeah, there was some like infamous shots because I mean, after the bell, like the match didn't stop because Henning tried Mr. tried to do like a sneak attack, and Hart was just like rip the singlet off over the shoulder, get to, and then also going and celebrating with his folks and all that stuff. Do you think like the folks were just put in as a plan to advance the story, or they were just going anyway and they thought, fuck it?
They were probably just going anyway because they always went to see their kids' matches. Because they've obviously went out their way to go to this one because it was in Madison Square Gardens.
True.
And they're in middle of nowhere with a dungeon.
Their dungeon.
Because they didn't know that Bret was going to be winning. It was all done like the past 2 days.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's supposed to be Curt Henning winning. So they're just going to support their Wayne.
Yeah.
So that Stu can go, right, Bret, you done this wrong. Let me see you. Right, this is how you should have choked him out. And then he'll leave him there for a day and a half. So he'll wake up soon.
Yeah. He's not dead yet.
I'm still breathing. Sorry.
Because that was something I was actually going to ask, was what the families maybe know ahead of time a finish, so they can so what they know if they're allowed to celebrate with their, like their significant other or their partner. Again, like I'm linking back to like the Chris Benoit, but when he won the title at WrestleMania 20, I always wondered if his family knew about it in advance. What and then what? So they were, because they were obviously suspiciously close to the front.
They probably did, because the fact that
I think there's occasions where they're told, and there's other occasions where I think the kind of wrestler likes it to be left for their reaction to be the live reaction.
Yeah.
Aye. Because if you think about the Mick Foley Rock match,
yeah,
the Rock's just beating up utter shit out of Mick Foley. It shows his Wayne's and his wife, and they are in tears because they're like, what the hell's going on? Why is Uncle Rock beating him up?
Yeah. I know. I still remember watching that with you, Toner, because you gave me the DVD, and I was like, holy hell. I mean, I didn't like seeing the kid crying and I wasn't a dad. It would break me now. And it was just the fact that afterwards I've taken him through it, and Uncle Rock is being all, he's like, I'm sorry, but he's okay. Go and see him. And he's just like, hey, buddy. Blood and
I think I'm still,
everything gets stitched up and all that stuff. He's like, hey, I'm all right.
I still sometimes rewatch that and rewind it just to laugh even harder when the kids cry.
Yeah, but that's you. It's the same deal, like, the Montreal screw job. And some of the footage that you saw from that, because the documentaries were getting filmed.
Yeah.
I still remember watching that thinking, I just wish they had the camera and when Bret socked him one. Because there was always all the talk about, did he really punch him, blah blah blah. But of course he did.
He did, because he had the black eye the next day.
Yeah,
and it's not that, but when you seen, because the camera's up and you see Vince walking around after, I mean, he's fucking gone.
His
eyes are glazed over. He's unsure of sounding. He's still not kind of properly came round, which also does show you though what happens when these guys do properly fucking hit one another. I know there've been umpteen scenarios of it, but that being one where you do see this is what happens when they do go, do you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah, definitely. I just love the fact that it was the Undertaker that had to go to Vince and say, you have to take a punch. What? Because I think if anybody else had went up and said to Vince, "Look, you're gonna have to take a punch off Bret," he would have told him to F off. But the fact it was Taker that said it, and he was just like, "All right," waits and then just gets fucking. But that's the thing, though. Like Bret always says that he uppercutted him, and if that was the case, why is his eye fucked? If he uppercutted him, well, I mean, I'm not exactly someone that could fight, but I know uppercut involves up, not straight.
Depends where his head was, but
Well, if he
Could
was
have
like,
gone.
What was Vince looking at him, or was he just going like that?
aye.
That's
Yeah.
right. Do it
And
today.
whatever he does, well, whatever he does, it's a good shot.
Yeah.
And again, what he got to live out, what like Conor liked was Stone Cold. You know, someone that could just like, you know, walk up to your boss and go fuck you and stun her. Like Bret actually got to go fuck you and leather his boss. Ex-boss at that point,
Yeah.
but he still got to leather him on his way out.
To be fair, Stone Cold get paid to do it on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I mean, that was his character for each.
What you doing this week? Oh, I'm going to stun every one of the McMahon family.
Yeah. But again, like you say, like that was what he was getting paid to do, and it was obviously there was parts of kayfabe in it. What? So there's obviously enough of a sell that it doesn't hurt as much. But just getting to legitimately like sock your boss one and not really have any repercussions out of it. That's like the holy grail for everybody in a 9 to 5 job. It's like smash.
No, what you want is what Mick Foley got to do. Socko down the throat.
I was more thinking what Rikishi got to do.
Vince looks like the type of person that would like that.
Yeah.
I don't think he would care what size or what sex it was. You know, he's got an arse in his face. He'll love it.
Dinner's dinner.
Exactly.
He's like, just close your eyes and pretend it's me young.
We've all been there.
Yeah. And that's how we know it's time to wrap up when we get to that stage. But yeah, so if we had to kind of look at it from, you know, looking at it now as adults compared to if we watched it as kids, does the Curt Henning, Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, excellence of execution still hold up? What do you guys think?
So what are we doing? Are we rating this out of 5 again?
Yeah, rating out of 5. Out of 5 stars.
1.5.
Oh, yikes! That's brutal.
And that is only
you.
for the last few minutes. That is the reason, because up until that point, it was sitting at less than half a star.
Yikes! You do not hold back. You will get this channel cancelled in about. Actually, I'm surprised it's not cancelled right now. Anyway, what about you, Kev?
Well, I would actually say it was 1. Again, just I mean these two were like two of my favourite people. Every match they were in, I would watch it religiously. It was those two and the Texas Tornado. They were the 3 that I followed at
Texas
that time,
Tornado.
because I had literally just started watching the year before, and these 3 were like mid card, but they were having the best matches, because the top matches were like Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan, and it's like there's only so many times you can watch a leg drop. And wait, with this, it was actual wrestling with these 3.
Yeah.
And this match just wasn't on par for them, for both of them. And these are 2 people that you could put in a match with anybody, and they would make it almost a 5-star match. But this one, they just couldn't get it. It was completely different for the 1993 match, the King of the Ring. That was such a better match.
It was such night and day.
It was, yeah. So 1 star for that one.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, like Bret did say that, you know, if there was anybody that, like, if he was up at 4 a.m. and just decided that he was gonna have an hour-long wrestling match, it would be with Curt Hennig. It would always be like a high-quality match.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm gonna be a bit more lenient than you guys, because you've just totally buried the fuckers. Well, so I'll go with 2. Like, it would have been higher if I hadn't went back and watched previous matches. Like, I've seen some of the matches that they did in house shows, which also led to this, and that's probably how like Vince McMahon's gears got perked up, because Bret was still in tags at this point and doing the house matches to try and get himself as a singles competitor, and they were always with Curt Henning, and those matches were like beautiful. They were like works of art. So understandably, going to this one is a little bit, bit of a downgrade. But taking in everything else into account that was going on, I do I understand. Let's not the.
Did you watch this match with your sunglasses on?
That's not the point. I didn't like. I didn't mind it, but it did have shades of Mankind Undertaker, where I was like, it's just a lot of nothing before the good parts.
I mean, that should have been the best match on the card by far.
Yeah,
on paper, 100%.
Yeah, but when you actually watch it, it was Big Boss Man versus the Mountie. That was the best match. And then the second best match was the opening match. And then after that, it's just.
I didn't watch the full pay-per-view. I only watched Hart and Henning. But yeah, like I say, like there was a lot of nothing, but with the circumstances that are around it, I could understand. Whereas with Mankind and Undertaker, there was a couple of things, but overall it was like, okay, don't remember for 3 bumps. Whereas in this case, it's remembered for, like I say, the circumstances of before it, the kick out of the finish, which wasn't really done at the time, and cutting off Stu Hart.
Yep,
is the kind of main things that I remember from it. And also, like, there was a wee botch with the ropes. And Curt Hennig was not happy with the ref. Was it Dave or Earl Hebner that was doing that one?
I think it was Earl.
Earl.
And Earl got right in his face and was ready to leather him. And I'm like, have you ever been mauled by a Wolverine? Don't fucking do that. But it just showed you, like, they took no shit. A lot of respect. Until obviously screwed over Bret, but still. Well, yeah. But apparently, like, the ref that you had to always like be careful of was Mike Chioda. Because apparently he could legitimately fuck you up.
Aye. He would just literally slap the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Apparently during a house show that Brock Lesnar legitimately botched something.
Yeah.
And then started taking it out on Mike Chioda, who just slapped him. And it's like, what? How? And Brock Lesnar sort of stepped back and went, what the hell?
Yeah. He probably was just like, okay, you have earned my respect. Lesnar seems like that type of guy. Like, like if you let him walk all over you, he will. If you stand up to him, he'll probably like absolutely annihilate you, but then shake your hand afterwards. Kind of like the Undertaker Jeff Hardy match. I know I talk about that one a lot as well, but that's one we need to discuss because that is one of my favorite matches of all time, hands down. Anyway, we'll wrap up because, like I say, Torner's Boss Hart, my eyes gubbed, and Kev's hands are a bit. Kev's hands.
Yep.
So thanks to everybody that's watched. Again, if you have any matches that you want us to review, good or bad, let us know in the comments below. And until next time, this has been Raw as Ginger. Ladies and gentlemen, good night.